walk match that we have queued up for you here, which is actually Esper Control versus Flame of Keld Red, so a much different take on the red deck here.
Yeah, it's true, and this is the matchup that Victor Nicholas wants to face. Flame of Keld Red against Esper Control is very lopsided because the Esper deck is kind of slow and lumbering. It takes a lot of time to set up its mana with lots of come into play tapped lands, and Flame of Red, when things are going well, can just run over it. Let's see if Joel Sadowski is able to break that pattern.
Boy, I tell you what, he's certainly taking an aggressive stance at the beginning here. Look at the damage pile up right now. But
Whoa.
Essence Extraction from Joel Sadowski could give him a big cushion.
Yeah, Essence Extraction, that's a one of, and it's almost certainly the best card in Joel Sadowski's deck in the matchup. He has it. So now if he can find time to get up to Torrential Gearhulk and flash that back, that's a pretty effective plan.
Man, Victor is having none of it, though. Look at this explosive attacks here from Victor Nicholas. He has sent Wizard's Lightning and Lightning Strike upstairs in conjunction with Soulscar Mage just for prowess triggers, and now has completely emptied out his hand thanks to Flame of Keld discarding an additional copy of Flame of Keld. But now it's going to get to do its thing. Chapter 2, he's going to draw a couple of extra cards, get his draw step, and try to pile on 10 more points of damage, especially with that Chapter 3 incoming. And it looks like Joel is going to actually disallow the trigger.
Ooh, a good old-fashioned Mind Rot. Sort of.
Yeah, kind of. Preemptive Mind Rot. But again, Victor's just like upstairs.
Huh, somewhat interesting.
Yeah, why not hold it, right?
Yeah, that he doesn't hold it for Chapter 3, where it would deal effectively double the damage.
Victor plays one way. He's getting in. And there's Vraska's Contempt, another potentially great card in the matchup. It ended up being a mountain here for Victor. There's a Bomat Courier, though. Glimmer of Genius is the play here for Sadowski. Perhaps trying to find a fatal push.
He drew both.
What? Looks like neither was a fatal push, so land number 6, you know what time that is. It's Gearhulk o'clock. Tick-tock.
This is draw step, I presume.
Yeah, and interestingly, Joel Sadowski decided to use the Essence Extraction. That 3 life could be really important, but he used it on the Bomat Courier, which means that Victor had the opportunity to sacrifice it and not let Joel get the life. At the end of it all, Joel's at 7 facing down just a Soulscar Mage, and he's got a Gearhulk in hand, on the battlefield, so perhaps not a bad outcome. Here's another Glimmer. Oh, he kept both again. Not a picky guy. Just take all of them. And once again, he's just going to pass the turn back. Doesn't want to start the attacks yet. Even just a Soulscar Mage is scary enough. Goblin Chainwhirler. Well, Joel looks like he's gotten control of this game, and look at this. Vraska's Contempt kills it, and boy, Joel Sadowski. Pretty convincing victory there, all told.
Yeah, it was a little dicey for a little while if he had not had the extra life gain from cards like Essence Extraction and Vraska's Contempt. I believe that Victor Nicholas probably dealt him about 20 damage in that game, but Joel was able to stabilize his life total.
A little slow here from Joel, but he'll take it. 1 drop into 2 drop. Fatal push into search for Escanta. Looks pretty good. Wow, desperation time for Victor. He plays Flame of Keld, discarding 2 cards. Joel's at 17.
Play one way, you said it, Marshall.
He is aggro. When Victor goes to a restaurant, he just pushes himself to the front of the line and starts demanding food. Chapter 3 for Flame of Keld. Nothing?
The waiter comes over and says, "Be careful, this plate is too hot." Victor's not waiting.
He grabs it with both hands. He doesn't care. Viashino Pyromancer now for Victor, but this is just way too late. He's down to 15.
The Flame of Keld deck is all about getting a rush of damage in the early game, and when it doesn't have that, it does not have a lot of comeback potential. The cards are low impact individually. There's not really any one card you're hoping to draw off the top to get you back in a situation like this.
Announces his trigger for Bomac Courier, but even that's not going to get to happen here. Victor is going to sacrifice it in response just to prevent the life gain in the exile, but he's empty-handed. Sadowski has now transformed Search for Azcanta, and this one's done. There's just no way that Victor, with the average power level of the cards in his deck, that he can get 15 damage through against this. That's probably one of his most powerful options, too. Joel's going to look with Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, and he did find an answer. It's Essence Scatter. But he's not going to use it. He's actually used Essence Extraction instead.
That's a bad feeling when you search, reveal something that could answer the creature, and your opponent says, "Actually, I have something better."
He's back up to 18. It's probably going to be for top 8 for Sadowski as well.
Yeah, good for him. We saw him lose a pretty close match to Oliver 2 a couple of rounds ago, but he's made a good comeback since then, bringing himself up to, it looks like it's going to be 12-2.
Mentioned it earlier in the day, but Joel played on the U.S. national team at the World Magic Cup in 2015, joining Neil Oliver and Tom Martell for that one. So he's had some success at the big stage, but another top 8 here would be sweet for him. The real question is, how much more can Victor take? He's got to know he's drawing dead to actually win here. Although, Chandra Torch of Defiance is a nice one. I am wondering if Victor's being a little, being perhaps a little optimistic by putting the loyalty on there first. And we saw our spotter down there on the table just reach over and grab that die off the top. That was pretty good. Earthshaker Kenra for Victor off the top of the old library there. And Vraska's Contempt is going to send that one packing permanently. But again, Sadowski has the engine rolling. Maybe that's enough to make Victor say, okay, fine. Seen enough. Nope. Well, now Teferi is doing Teferi things. Namely, allowing Joel Sadowski to activate Azcanta the Sunken Ruin multiple times in a turn cycle. And that is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Joel has a second copy there. He's got Azcanta, or Search for Azcanta out there just to help filter the top of his library.
So he's just looking for a Gear Hulk or something like the Scarab God to actually get his opponent down to 0.
Glimmer of Genius now for Joel. But he's basically just going through the motions. Victor's empty-handed with his opponent at a cool 20 life.
Boy, I think every time Joel Sadowski has cast Glimmer of Genius, he's kept both cards on top.
Maybe somebody should tell him. All right, and that's the hand. Joel Sadowski, very likely going to be able to draw into our top 8. Sometimes you get unlucky and you get paired down or something weird happens, but most scenarios he's going to be able to be through with Esper Control, which I think is really cool. I want to see this. I want to see more of this deck anyway.
Yeah, perhaps a rematch against Oliver.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe he'll have sorted it out there. So that's going to do it for that particular time walk match here. We're kind of taking a look at the clock here and seeing how close we are to the getting paired up and everything. We might be able to bring you a little bit more though. Again, we'll get back to that in a minute. But great stuff from Joel Sadowski, taking this Esper deck and boom, moving right into the top 8. Probably not locked, but probably. There is actually time for some more time walks. So let's head on back in time here to Mike Siegrist playing against Toshiro Noritake. And once again, we see Flame of Keld Red doing really well in the tournament. I mean, this is 2 different 11 and 2s that we had this round, but facing down a more controlling deck from Siegrist here, blue-black mid-range. Now, this one isn't quite what we saw from Sadowski.
No, this is more creature-oriented. He's got Glint Sleeve Siphoners and Champion of Wits in his main deck, just as a couple of examples. But the idea is the same. Wants to get to the long game, play the Scarab God, play Torrential Gear Hulk, lots and lots of Vraska's Contempts.
Champion of Wits for Siegrist. And as we've seen, the name of the game with this Flame of Keld deck is to just empty your hand out. He's just lightning strike you. You want to try to leverage Flame of Keld, lowering its downside and maximizing its upside as much as possible. And that means just hurling as many burn spells and little creatures as you can at your opponent as fast as you can. Here's Doomfall from Siegrist to keep his life total nice and high.
Your round 1 pairings have been posted by the Black Gathering Point flag.
Exiled on top, Graveyard's on the bottom. Soulscar Mage, just a kind of slow draw though from Toshiro. Maybe he's got another way to empty out some cards from his hand here before his untapped step. Land number 5 for Siegrist. Boy, his hand looks powerful. You seeing that, Reed?
Yeah.
Liliana, Gear Hulk.
Quite some options.
Yeah, he even has Vraska's Contempt in there.
This is similar to what we saw in our main feature match with Seth Manfield, the Planeswalker taking up to 6 loyalty on a stable board. It's going to demand a lot for Toshiro to kill the Liliana.
So Siegrist is going to get a zombie. And pass the turn back. Now, Toshiro has at least Wizard's Lightning in hand, but he also has Lightning Strike. He's going to kill the zombie with it.
So an ideal turn here would be 3 damage pointed at Liliana, and then another spell and attack for 3 to kill off the Planeswalker, but looks like he's just going straight for Mike's life total, which that is, whoa.
Oh my goodness sakes.
What is this, 13 damage in 1 turn? Siegrist down to 4. Or 3.
Wow.
3 is that magic number, too. There's a lot of cards in Toshiro's deck that deal 3 damage.
Yeah, I think Siegrist is going to prioritize getting that Vraska's Contempt out of his hand and get himself back up to 5 life, because then there's no immediate top decks I don't think that Toshiro has. Wow.
Yeah, I would agree with that play. Just cast Vraska's Contempt, keep it simple.
Boy, that was a lot of damage, Reed. 9 off of burn spells, 4 from the mage.
No kidding.
This is still standard, isn't it? Liliana. Gonna mill Mike for 2 and then get him a zombie. He's gonna pass a turn back though, because he knows that there's nothing that Toshiro has that can really interact much here. drawing his card. Doesn't play anything. This is an interesting cycle that Mike has put himself in. He had an opening to just use Vraska's Contempt, get to 5, and then just see what Toshiro drew. But now he's in kind of an awkward spot because if he taps out at any point, he could lose.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a case of overthinking it. He might have been worried about what if Toshiro has a haste creature like an on-crop Crasher. But I think given the Gear Hulk, he wanted to just tap out on back-to-back turns to gain some life.
Yeah, because once you get up to 5, even if they draw the Crasher, you're not dead. And then you can just cast the Gear Hulk and then flash back. And your life total gets bolstered.
Because now Mike can't really tap his mana for fear of getting killed in response.
He can't. And every draw step that goes by, well, Noritaki's going to do him a little bit of a favor and play the Mountain. Mike has the option of waiting until he gets up to 8 mana to protect it with Commit, but that's a lot of cards for Toshiro, and it probably doesn't get a whole lot better.
Now I'll tell you what's happening now is Sigrist probably has a suspicion. He's got a read on his opponent based on the mannerism with which he played that Mountain, that Mike thinks Toshiro does not have burn.
Okay.
But now he's deciding, am I sure enough that I want to act on that speculation?
Toshiro is playing land so he can get back this Earthshaker Kenra, but now this does leave the shields well and truly down.
Yes, this is actually very good for Mike Sigrist because he has an opportunity to cast a Vraska's Contempt, or he could even just ambush this with a Torrential Gear Hulk and then be ready to attack for 11 damage next turn. That's very good.
I like this play for Mike. Going for the Contempt. Sure, he's going to take a damage, but he gains 2 of it back, so he'll be up 4. And now he sets up this Gear Hulk play that you and I have been talking about, where he's going to be back up to 6. And with Toshiro completely tapped out, he knows he can just do that. Really like to hit another untapped land because he has a Essence Scatter in his hand too, I believe. In the meantime, he's just going to use the Liliana and her ability to get back the Scarab God. And there's that land. Yeah, Scarab God certainly opens up a lot of worlds here for Sigrist as well.
And Mike now is actually going to hold on to that commit memory because he can play around double burn spell by holding up commit memory, whereas if he played the Gear Hulk Contempt, he could be dead if Toshiro was holding 3 damage and drew 3 damage.
Right. And he has been applying actual pressure here to Toshiro's life total with the 2 zombies and the Champion of Wits. So the clock's starting to get pretty real here as well for Toshiro. I think they're resolving a trigger there for the Scarab God, and I think the Scarab God is a zombie now, right? Because he got it back with Liliana.
Yeah, so Mike looked like he picked up 3 cards, which is weird because the Scarab God and the Champion of Wits were both returned via Liliana.
So it should have been 4?
4 or 2, I'm not sure. 3 is the number that I don't really understand.
That is time at round 14.
Yeah, it's funny. I think he remembered it for the Scarab God perhaps, but not for the Champion. Yeah, nothing left for Toshiro. Boy, that's a lot of lands to draw for a Flame of Keld red deck. And Mike Sigrist wins game number 1. We are very likely playing a win-in for the top 8 here in Richmond as well. A lot of these players with 12-2 records after this round will be able to take an intentional draw and find themselves in the top 8. You're not guaranteed, though. So Sigrist potentially 1 game away from yet another GP top 8. Or Toshiro Noritake, he can win 2 games with his hyper-aggressive deck. Here's Wizard's Lightning going upstairs thanks to the Gitu Lava Runners. Does he have another instant or sorcery here? Lightning Strike you. It's a lot of damage in 1 turn again. Reed, 10 this time?
Plus getting closer to emptying his hand for the purposes of Flame of Keld.
Right. Meanwhile, helpless Sigrist here has just done nothing. He literally hasn't cast a spell yet.
Yeah, what's he got going? He has Essence Extraction.
Banefire you for 3. I like this. This deck is sweet. It's real straightforward. All right, there's this extraction to keep Mike Sigrist's life total a little alive. What he really doesn't want to see here is a Flame of Keld, right? If that last card in hand for Toshiro's a mountain or even just a whatever style creature, then it's not so bad. But if he gets to reload, it is. And Sigrist needs to fight every fight he possibly can at this point. Oh, and there's the Flame of Keld to finish things up here. Toshiro Noritake with the ultimate curve out. And how the heck is Sigrist going to recover from this? Cards coming into hand here for Toshiro next turn. He's going to have 3 in his hand. He's going to have to hope that Toshiro bricks. It does look like he's holding a copy of Vraska's Contempt, though.
Draw 1, tick up, pick up 2 more.
Ooh. Is that Insult? Now, this is going to force the issue for sure for Sigrist.
Does that say players can't gain life this turn, or just damage can't be prevented?
Just damage can't be prevented. But this also gets him, not only does it give him 2 life, but it effectively prevents 4.
Nice play from Sigrist responding with that, because if Noritake had Wizard's Lightning, he would be forced to respond before the insult resolved.
Reducing it from 6 to 3.
Yeah, precisely. Okay. Or else he would lose his Wizard and not be able to cast it at all.
Oh, good point, yeah.
Boy, curious to see Insult Injury coming in for this matchup. It doesn't, I mean, at least the Insult side doesn't look so strong.
Arguel's Bloodfast looks pretty awful here, but we have seen it get transformed and actually make a big difference.
Speaking of strange-looking cards, the Arguel's Bloodfast, it's not in there to draw Mike Sigrist extra cards. It's in there so that when he gets down to 5 life, he can transform it and claw his way back, using it to sacrifice Torrential Gearhulks and Scarab Gods.
Yeah, we've seen that Scarab God loop happen over and over again. Here's Cast Down, a key removal spell once again for Sigrist. This is the Chapter 3 turn. Can Toshiro finish off Sigrist? The answer is close.
5 damage from this is Chapter 3.
So he's going to put him to 2? Oh, man. Well, he gets to transform Arguel's Bloodfast, doesn't he? Yeah, you're going to want to look at Injury. 3 mana as well. Injury deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. So there is lethal just sitting there for Toshiro. Mike has to make sure that he can gain some life. And the good news is he can. Temple of Aklazats is now on the battlefield, and it looks like he's going to go for Hostage Taker. Steal your thing. Probably play it, and then sacrifice the Hostage Taker.
Wow. This is like old school stuff here. Diamond Valley control magic. More recently, I think it was called something Moaning Well from Kamigawa block, some legendary land where you would Vidalcan Shackles their creature and then sacrifice it.
Mirren.
Yeah, Mirren the Moaning Well. There it is.
Well, the good news for Sigrist is that Temple of Aklazats is a lot more efficient than Mirren the Moaning Well. Given that you have to work a lot harder for it, it makes sense. But just simply taps to sacrifice a creature. But Sigrist does not want to even have 1 minute where his life totals at risk here. He's back down to 3, though. He really needs to just find a creature. And it looks like he has the Scarab God. If he can start looping the Scarab God, I don't think Toshiro can keep up with that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, he's not going to make that play, though. He's going to go for Champion of Wits. Discard the Scarab God. As well as Vraska's Contempt and leaving him with just Supreme Will up.
I think he wants to set up the same play as last game with Liliana, Death's Majesty returning the Scarab God.
Perhaps a little awkward. He drew another copy of Argwell's Bloodfast there. Like he wants that one, but...
So the only way I see Toshiro winning this game is if he picked up an instant speed burn spell, he can respond to the Liliana -3 by burning Sigrist, and Sigrist will have to sacrifice his Champion of Wits. But then that would open the door for Toshiro to draw another burn spell, but given that that Scarab God enters the battlefield, I think it's over.
Sigrist is facing near lethal damage, but near lethal is not lethal. He can go to 1.
Boy, and Toshiro just was never able to cross the finish line here. He got very close.
He's going for the shock right now?
He needs Mike to be forced to sacrifice the Scarab God, because if he untaps with it, then he can use other techniques to put himself out of range.
Okay. I wasn't seeing those other techniques yet. But he opened up the door, and Mike said, I'll come on through. He sacrifices the Scarab God and doesn't have to worry, because Mike couldn't just sacrifice the Scarab God there for a risk of getting burned out. So,
true.
But in response, you certainly can. Now Mike's at 4, and boy, I think this one's just about in the books.
Yeah, you make a great point, Marshall. It could have been better for Toshiro to hang on to the shock and try to pick a spot at instant speed. Maybe Mike makes an error, or maybe he can find another source of burn and double team in response to the temple activation. But it's true that at face value here against the flipped Bloodfast, Mike is just going to get out of range.
Yeah, now there's Essence Extraction, and that's going to put Mike very far out of range for Toshiro, and he still has this loop going if he'd like to. On-Crop Crasher is the play, but we're going to see Supreme Will counter that. So that goes right to the graveyard. And there's a Gear Hulk off the top to really seal the deal, Reed. Wow, Mike Sigrist looks like he's lined up for a top 8 here as well. This thing's shaping up nicely. We saw Seth Manfield get in this round. Probably.
Standard Grand Prix players
we also watched Joel Sadowski. He's probably going to get in. And if this one ends the way it looks like it's going to, Sigrist could be in too.
Yeah, things are certainly taking shape.
I should mention that none of these are guaranteed. We're only in round 14. There's another round to go. And sometimes pairings happen in a weird way. So these aren't stone locks, but definitely a high percentage chance for the people that win this round to get in. Most of them will.
Standard Grand Prix players, your pairings are posted online for round.
All right, there it is. Torrential Gear Hulk, excuse me.
In the hall shortly.
And he's just going to flash back Essence Extraction, targeting the Gear Hulk just to gain 3, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, this is mostly about getting a 5-power creature onto the battlefield, but picking up 3 extra points of life and another nice body for the temple. Certainly can't complain.
Especially since poor Toshiro Noritake just has to sit there with his hands folded. He has nothing going on. Even a card like Flame of Keld is woefully slow in this position.
Yeah, I think Toshiro's only getting one more draw step, and even the biggest Banefire he can muster will not be good enough.
Sigrist certainly interested in turning this into a 2-turn clock if possible. And it certainly is possible. Yeah, Toshiro's just simply out of outs. There's no way he can do 10 damage with 1 draw step. And he certainly can't clear up this board either. Sigrist, of course, being a professional all the way through here, making sure that he plays clean and tight and make sure that there's no possible way to lose until his opponent extends the hand. Scarab God's back. Pass the turn. Last draw step here for Toshiro. And it's a Bomat Courier. And there's a handshake. Mike Sigrist puts himself in fantastic position for another top 8. This time with blue-black mid-range. We've seen actually quite a few different decks already with the Esper deck, the blue-black mid-range, and the red-black deck as well from those top players that we just mentioned a minute ago. Most of them should be in the top 8. We'll, of course, bring you updates as we get that. Generally speaking, you can assume that they are, but if we tell you after, hey, this person got paired down or something weird happened, we'll probably be bringing that to you as well. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more magic here from Richmond.
Standard